at it. What's up? I'm not sure exactly when this goes live. I think like right now, but if you're watching this on time delay, fast forward about 4 minutes into the future, you can actually just go to the description to see what time the video will actually start. So there you go. And so this is part of a series I do in First Time Homebuyer School. You can click the link in the bio to join First Time Homebuyer School. It's a private community we have, and these topics typically come from the actual Facebook group. So yeah, if you want to, yes, if you want to join the community, click the link in the bio, and you can have kind of a input on some of the topics going forward. So right now, I'm just dropping the link actually in the community. All right. Okay, so I got the link there. Going to drop a comment in the group as well. So we're going to start in about 3 minutes, covering house hacking and actually going into detail, not a lot of fluff like you see on these internet streets. Oh, let me actually update this. Oh, I forget to do this. Let me update this thumbnail. All right, let's go, computer. Bookmarks to my YouTube page. Videos, we got videos. Your videos. Oh crap, I need a quicker internet speed. So I'm going to be starting this in about 2 minutes. If you're watching this on time delay. All right, let me update my thumbnail. Boom, how to house hack. Going live in 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. All right, so I almost forgot to go live on Instagram. How do I always get caught up this time? No matter how early I start, I'm always a little bit behind. All right, link in bio to join. All right, so getting this ready for Instagram. All right, there. So let me actually drop this link in the Facebook community. Link tonight. All right. Okay, going to post that there. Okay, about to go live in about 90 seconds. All right, so I got the live ready to go. All right, so I go live on YouTube. What's this thing called? Instagram. There we go. Oh man, 7 o'clock. So I'm about to start in about 60 seconds. I'm not sure why I'm always late to start these things. Join first time homebuyer school. Link in the bio to join on YouTube. All right. Okay. So okay. All right. So let me start this in about 90 seconds. Sorry. I don't know why I'm always caught off guard by the time. All right. Okay. So cool. About to go live on Instagram. Let me paste my comments. All right. Okay, cool. So here we go. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so cool. About to kick this off in 3, 2, 1. Let's get into it. All right. So We're going to be talking about house hacking. This is a part of First Time Homebuyer School. You can click the link in the bio to join the class in the future, get to have an impact or input on topics. So we're going to be talking about how to actually house hack. We're going to go going over like loan programs, my personal experience, and basically getting into the details. A lot of folks talk about house hacking from a super high level, and it's like, hey, get a multifamily property, live rent free, and that's it. And there's very few details, and it makes it seem like it's the greatest or the easiest thing to do in the world. It is great, but you need to actually get the details, which is what we're going to talk about in this presentation. So we're going to talk about doing with multi, single family, loan guidelines, and my personal experience as well. So there you go. I was like, who am I? Actually, I'm an underwriter. I need to update this slides. The slide is like 3 years old, sorry. But the stuff's still the same. I need to update this particular slide though. Top producing underwriter, I guess, right now. I've been in the industry for about 7 years, so I've seen a lot of scenarios. So pretty much any scenario that you've seen, there's a good chance that I've come across of it in my experience. All right. Sorry, make sure you guys can see the slides. I don't know, this thing looks like it's double. Okay, cool. I'm going to make sure the slides were up there. Sorry about that. Let me get back to this presentation. So I've owned 3 properties. I just like to point that out to say that, like, I'm talking from a place of experience, not just talking from theories. I'm talking from guidelines and personal experience, which gives you the best of both worlds, right? I have a degree in finance, if that matters to you all, guys, to y'all, and I'm a home ownership advocate, as I think you know about me. And so we're going to be talking about my first house hack. So this is the first property that I purchased right out of college. So I went to the U.S. Naval Academy. So when I graduated, I was straight into the military, which is why I was able to use the VA loan to purchase a property. So that property may look like a multifamily property. It's not. It's actually a single family property. I was in this unit down here at the bottom. Let me get my laser pointer up. I was in this unit like right here. The first place I ever lived was right here. And it was a condo. And it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo right here on the Willoughby Spit in Norfolk, Virginia. Good old VA. Oh, I got my good. I blanked out the address. I don't know why I don't live there anymore, right? And so that's the first house hack I ever had in my life. And it was a unique experience because one of the interesting things about that house hack is that I lived in that property for the whole time I was in the military, so 5 years. And my roommate didn't even know I owned the property, right? And so the reason I did that was a couple reasons. One, I got kind of good guidance from my parents. They're the ones who encouraged me to buy a home in the first place, right out of college. And it also kind of made sense because I was like, okay, so I'm going to be paying like, roughly about $1,500 or something to live, right? I might as well pay it to myself. And also, if I could have somebody else contribute towards the rent, which was their suggestion, it works out for me, double. So I get to build equity. I get to put money towards an asset that I'm on. I get to have someone else paying the mortgage for me. And it was a win-win for the other person, right? Because you kind of see it was a nice place. It was really like literally beachside. I mean, there was the street, there was my condo, then there was the beach. So the guy got to stay in a beachside condo for $975 a month, which probably would have been a lot more if he were to have rented a property on that strip as well. And so it was a win-win for us. The reason I didn't tell him, because I didn't want any conflict about, hey, we're both 21 and there's drama and, we're cool, man. Can I get you in the rent a little bit later? We're just going to keep things 100% separate. And so I was lucky to have, responsible parents who I could use as my property managers. And so basically he thought that these folks owned the property who were not my parents, and sent the rent to them, and they just put it into my bank account, and I did all the stuff. So I mean, they were the property managers in name. I did all the dirty work. So what we're going to get into in this presentation is, what is house hacking? What are your goals? What is your goal? Or what is your goal? Okay. Property types, methods, things to look out for, loan programs, screening renters, and now that you reduce your living expense, like what do you do now, right? Like what's the move? And so this is part of my course, so we're going to get into some of these with a little less detail than other, but it's going to be probably a lot better than a lot of your paid courses out here, because most folks either haven't done it or haven't been a loan officer or haven't been an underwriter. There's not a lot of people that kind of fit that criteria, right? And so I can get into a lot of detail. So what is house hacking? It's a strategy that involves renting out portions of your primary residence to generate income that is used to offset the cost of your mortgage and other expenses associated with your home. So I think the important thing there is to offset the cost, right? Because like I said, for some reason, folks think it's like, hey, you have to house hack, or if you're house hacking, you have to, live rent free. That's this catchphrase right now, which doesn't even make any sense. You're not like renting anything, but that's just this catchphrase people use is like living rent free. No, if it's going to cost you $1,000 to live in the area, and by house hacking you can reduce that living expense to 400, 300, that's a win in my eyes and your bank account's eyes. And so once again, when you're house hacking, you got to figure out first off, like, what is your goal, right? Is your goal to live rent free? So if your goal is to live rent free, you most likely need a multi-family property, or a single family property with probably like 3 or 4 rooms. And you're probably looking at a triplex or a fourplex if you want to live rent free. Living rent free-ish, you can do the single family route or the duplex route. Are you just looking to like build your real estate portfolio out, right? Like your goal is to, like what I did was I house hacked with single family properties and then kind of moved on to the next one. Temporarily house hacked just for a time, but then hey, maybe after that I'm going to get the house on the hill or the picket fence. Or is the goal just to sell your property in a few years? Like if the goal is to sell the property in a few years, I don't know, just get the best property. Like house hacking, I guess, can help you for like a time frame or two, but you're kind of mixing two things that may not balance when I'm talking about like a home that's going to like appreciate a lot and a home that you're trying to make money off as far as house hacking. And honestly, if the property is like you're making money off the house hack, like I don't know, why would you sell the property in the first place? So you got to kind of figure out what your goal is. So let's get into it. All right, so game plan. Once you don't want to rely 100% on your realtor, and we're going to get into the guidelines and like the details in a bit, but you don't want to rely 100% on your realtor, right? And the reason for that is this is the most important financial decision of your life, not your realtor's. And also, like your realtor could be the best realtor on the planet, but they're not going to know what's explicitly best for you, right? Only you can know what's best for you when you're going through this scenario. But you want to make them work though. You don't want to. It's not like 100% your thing to do, but you want to be informed whether it's house hacking you're doing or making any purchase. You want to make sure you're informed on at least the basics. And honestly, a lot of realtors, and once we get to the guidelines, realtors and lenders don't know certain things when it comes to house hacking. When we're talking about like especially the FHA self-sufficiency test, that specifically, most realtors don't know what that is. Most civilians don't know what that is. And some lenders don't know what it is either. Once again, that bedroom to bathroom ratio is super important if you're looking at a single family property, right? Because you always want there to be a 1-to-1 ratio of bedrooms to bath. So for instance, like when I was renting out my first condo, there were 2 bedrooms, there were 2 baths. So I had the master bedroom, and so I had an ensuite bathroom. And then there was like a main or like a community bathroom in the other part of the room, which was like a Jack and Jill situation, which went into my other roommate's bathroom, and then it opened up to the public, right, or the living room. And so in that scenario, like that public bathroom was just his, like the door that opened up to the public, I didn't mess with that. When I had guests over, the guests went in my bedroom and used the bathroom because I wanted that to be his separate bathroom. Because like, think about this, like bathroom is like a super like private place, even when you're using it in the public. And like, you don't want to have folks like using the same bathroom. You don't want it to be a situation where somebody's like peeing on the seat and it's annoying, or somebody's like, hey, you spit in the sink and didn't clean it out because somebody was rushing. So in my opinion, you want to always make sure there's a 1-to-1 bedroom to bathroom ratio, because you don't ever want there to be any unnecessary drama when it comes to the bathroom. And if anybody's ever like lived with a loved one, even in like a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom situation, like when I was with my fiance, that was super hectic. Us just sharing the same bathroom. So I couldn't imagine sharing the bathroom with somebody I didn't even like, right? And you got to figure out like what's the most that you want to pay. And so in my course, I actually have a Redfin breakdown, and also on this YouTube channel and on my podcast. So you can check out my podcast for like tips on the go as well. It's by the same name, but it breaks down how to work backwards to find your perfect home price. And so that's another episode that I've already done. So you have to go back and check out finding your perfect price or it's called do this before we buy a home. And once again, you want to set the criteria with your realtor, but be flexible, because you don't want to have like the what's the champagne taste and the beer budget. Like so many folks like see stuff that's going on TV, like house hunters, $1 million listings. But you got just a basic job where you're like a logistics manager at Target making $60,000-$70,000 a year, which is good money, but it may not necessarily get you every single thing you want. And specifically when we're talking about like our first property, your first property should not be your dream home anyways. You want to get something that just works for you financially, can make you a little bit of money, and you can kind of build on your real estate portfolio in the future. All right, next slide. Okay, so if we're getting to property types, if you found any value in this video, I'd appreciate if you kind of give it a thumbs up. That helps the video get out to more people, it boosts my morale, but it gets out to more people, more viewers, and I do more of these presentations. So that's some reciprocity there. And so the shoe's actually cut off, but there's like a house in the shoe. There's an upside down house, which is actually a house. You don't want your house to be upside down, though. That's bad metaphorically. But they're basically, there's 4 different property types: single, duplex, triplex, fourplex. But there are actually a bunch of different single family properties, which is why I think that's an aspect that a lot of people look over when they're talking about house hacking, is the fact that you can easily house hack a single family property. So I'm going to work from the right to the middle, to the left, then to the middle, right? So condos. So condos are, to me, they're very good if you're somebody that's new to real estate, it's your first property, you don't have any real management experience, or you're traveling a lot, or you don't want to do a bunch of maintenance, right? Because condos have HOAs. HOAs pretty much take care of the outside of the property. You don't have to worry about cutting the grass. You don't have to worry about security of the condo when you're gone, hopefully. And so those are good for single family, for people that are kind of new to real estate and don't want to get into the dirty details. But you do need like a 2-bedroom condo. A 1-bedroom condo doesn't do anything for you, right? And then so let's go to the left over here. This right here is a single family property with it's called like an in-law suite. And so this back here is basically just a completely separate unit. It's essentially like a duplex, but it's zoned for single family use. And so like this in-law suite has no access to the actual house itself, or it may have like a door that's very lockable, like a reinforced door that you can lock, but it has its own, bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, and all that stuff. So think of in-law suite. So think of like your mother staying with you for, a couple weeks or a year or long-term, whatever, and they can kind of stay in that suite and have their own privacy, but still be close to their kids, right? In case they need whatever, right? And so that's what the in-law suite is. And then right here, we have the traditional like single family property. And so with this is, the more bedrooms, the better. And so the more bedrooms, honestly, the more uncomfortable it is for you, but the more profitable it is for you as well. So if you're like a 3 or 4 bedroom house, like you obviously have one room, and then you can just rent out the other rooms, right? And so let's say your mortgage is $2,000. Maybe you can rent out, it depends on your market, but let's say you can rent out the other 3 rooms for $700 each. That's $2,100, which covers your $2,000 mortgage. Or I've seen this like, I've seen this for like Doug Depp. Heard an interview with him where he had like a house, and he actually just lived in the garage, which is not super comfortable, but it helped him to get off to a great start with his real estate portfolio. So you have a lot more options when it comes to single family properties that I think a lot of folks even realize. And another thing, we're talking about single family properties, just because it's a single family property now doesn't mean it has to stay a single family property. So especially if you're buying a property, you can use like and this is another lesson as well, the FHA 203K loan. And the property has to be zoned for multifamily property. But if you have a single family home on a small or a big lot, or it just happened to be zoned for multifamily use, you can actually like add a unit via like the FHA 203K loan, the rehab loan. You can turn a 1 unit into a 4 unit, 3 unit, 2 unit, or you can add like an ADU or an accessory dwelling unit on the property as well. So you have a lot of options as well. But the key thing is to make sure that property is zoned for multifamily use, or you can't do anything. Or you can put another unit on it, but it'll be torn down by the city. Or you can put a unit on it sneakily, but when you go to sell the property, you won't get any credit for that additional unit because if it's not permitted. So just kind of food for thought when we're thinking about house hack and that single family property, right? All right, so let's get into multi-family properties. And so right here we got the duplex. I think everyone knows what a duplex is. It's kind of the traditional, I guess it's the non-traditional duplex look. Sheesh. And it's got the door on the other side there. We got the triplex, the modern triplex. What I want you to pay attention to is this down here, which is the fourplex. And so there should be something unique that you see about the fourplex that's not common with the other properties. If you guys can let me know in the chat what you think is kind of unique about the way that fourplex looks. And actually, I always forget this is on time delay, so this doesn't work as good as I think it is when I'm talking about answering questions. And so the unique thing about that, sorry, I saw your question. I'll get to your question at the end. But the unique thing about the fourplex is that this fourplex is not attached. And so a common misperception when folks hear multifamily properties is that for some reason is that they think all the units need to be touching each other. Like it has to look like this triplex over here, or, it has to look like the box, fourplex that kind of a lot of folks see. No, but the only definition of a multifamily property is the units have to be on the same lot. So like in this scenario, there are 4 different units all on the same lot. That's why this is considered a fourplex when it comes to commercial lending, or excuse me, when it comes to residential lending guidelines. So you're essentially buying 4 houses. They just happen to be on the same lot, so you can use one loan to purchase those. And so when we're talking about, the actual house hacking and how do you get people in the property, there are various different ways to do it, right? And so, especially when we're talking about using a multifamily property. So one is just the basic, get a roommate. If you're kind of doing the single family thing, or get roommates with an S. You can go the Airbnb route. Like my wife and I stayed in a what I found out was a triplex this weekend when we're out in Colorado Springs, and it was a detached 3-unit triplex, right? And so one was the main property that the parents or the host daughter stayed in. Another was a long-term rental, and it was us, the Airbnb guests, in the other property. So Airbnb is a way to is a way to house hack as well. So once again, if you're part of a HOA, you want to make sure you read the guidelines before you consider the Airbnb route, because you want to make sure that you can actually do that, right? You can do the long-term rental thing, which is the most common. Once again, you can add another unit onto your current home. If it's a purchase, you can do the FHA 203K loan, or you can just come out of pocket to do the renovations as well, right? Appreciate it. Got a badge on IG. Appreciate that. Thank you. I'll get to questions at the end if you do have a question. So you can also, I seen this one. This is a unique one. I see someone had like a big property and they had like one house on it, but they didn't want to be they didn't want to like build another unit, so they just kind of lived on a trailer on their property. It was their property. They could do whatever they want. They could just live in the trailer. And so once again, you can buy a multifamily unit and live in one of the units. That's the most commonly one talked about by the gurus online. Or you can get like Section 8 tenants in there as well. And so in my course, I actually go into the Section 8 rental process. Actually, I don't go into it because it's kind of like a quick overview of house hacking. And so right here, what I want to talk about is the 4-3-2-1 method. So we'll hear the 4-3-2-1 method. I want you to understand more the theory behind this method than the actual execution. You can execute on it, but you need to understand really the theory and why this is and why this method is the way to go. It's because whenever you're purchasing multifamily properties and you're purchasing another one in the same local area, if you're going down in unit size, it's considered an upgrade by underwriting, which means the underwriter will consider the next one your primary residence as well, which means with a conventional loan or an FHA loan, conventional, you can put down 3.5%. With FHA, you can put down 3.5%. I'm not sure if I said 3% conventional, but 3% for conventional. However, if you're going from a 2-unit to a 3-unit, a 1-unit to a 2-unit, a 3-unit to a 4-unit, basically the other way, it's considered a downgrade in living expenses. And you have to convince the underwriter that you are, why it's going to be your primary residence. So think about it. It's like, hey, you're in this single family home. Like, why all of a sudden is this person trying to buy a triplex. The underwriter's like, okay, this person wants to buy an investment property and they're just going to claim they're living in it, right? To put down only 3.5%. Whether your intentions is to genuinely live in the property, the underwriter is not going to take your word for it per guidelines, because there's too many people out here trying to commit mortgage fraud, no matter how easier you are. And so, once again, always going from 4-3 to 2-1 is always assumed an upgrade. Going the other way, you have to convince the underwriter that it's going to be your primary residence, and that is an uphill battle, pun intended. And so there are a couple workarounds when we're talking about the going from a 2 to a 4, like going up the hill. And so one, if you're going like from an attached unit to a detached unit, so like we saw in the previous slide, if you're going from like a duplex to like a triplex, but it's a detached triplex, it's like, okay, this seems like an upgrade in living standards, because they're basically in a single family home now, and it just happens to be on a lot with 3 other properties. One, if you're moving like 50 miles and getting closer to your job. So it's not like, hey, I'm in Dallas and I want to move to another part of Dallas. No, I need to be in Dallas, and my job is, now I'm going to get real detailed. But just if you're in Dallas and your job is like 50 miles, job is like 75 miles north of Dallas for some reason, you have to be moving like another 50 miles to get within like 25 miles of the house, essentially. And so even though you're in this, maybe still within like Dallas County, even though Dallas County, I don't think it's 75 miles wide, right? Or you're going to a significantly bigger unit, right? And so you went from maybe a single family home to somehow you went to like a huge duplex, but a single family home that maybe like 900 square feet. Or now you're going to a duplex that's like 1,500 square feet or 2,000 square feet, like you're going to a bigger unit. And so that is a reason that the underwriter would be like, hey, okay, it makes sense that this person is going to actually live in the property. Another one, if like the property has more rooms to it, or if you can show like there's safety issues in your neighborhood. So like, maybe you're in one neighborhood on like one side of the highway, and then you only go like 10, 15 miles in the other direction. It's somehow, segregated by a highway. And now this is a super nice neighborhood. And so we know that that's happening a lot, because people just build highways through cities for, it's a whole nother topic though. And once again, these are all at the underwriter's discretion, which is why it's always tricky to go up. It's always assumed an upgrade if you go down. So you always want to start high and then go down low. So you can go from a 4 unit for 1 year, then a 3 unit, 2 unit, and then kind of get to your dream home. And then those 4, 3, and 2 unit properties, if you're still holding them and renting them all out, they should pay for that dream home. And that's financial freedom, right? And so what you want to pay attention to when you're house hacking, right? You want to pay attention to like HOA guidelines. Once again, because if you can't rent out the property, like, what did you actually do? Some HOAs are like, hey, only 10% of the units in the building can be rented. And the reason for that is because if everyone's like renting in the condo, it's essentially an apartment building, which decreases like the value of the unit. So city ordinances. So once again, if you have this grand idea, it's like, hey, I'm going to buy this single family property and I'm going to add a unit, or I'm going to do this and that. You need to make sure that it's actually allowed by the city in the first place before you try to like add another unit to the property. Like if you're in an area and it's like, hey, there's not a single duplex or multifamily unit in this whole city, I'm going to make the first one. It may be because by city ordinance that's not allowed. Of course, you want your neighborhood to be desirable. And I would say desirable to the masses, because once again, you're in this for profit. And so your opinion of what's desirable is cool, but you want to get something that you think a lot of people will desire. So like I can give my personal example. So like when I purchased that property in Norfolk, Virginia, right? I chose that specifically because it was beachside. And so it's not that property was like $250,000. Don't think it's like this super like Miami South Beach type property. It's a property that was beachside, but I think that was a cool, like unique feature. I never got in the water or went into the water, but I thought that was a cool, unique feature that folks would like about a property. So it was easy to get renters in their property because of that. When I purchased a property in Maryland, right outside of DC, I made sure to purchase a property that was near like a subway stop, right? And so you want to make sure that there's a unique feature. When I purchased a home here in Dallas, I wanted to make sure it was in one of the very few walkable neighborhoods in Dallas, St. Thomas, if you're familiar with that. And it was like right outside a park, right? So I made sure there were unique features that I think a lot of people would like, not just myself. So there was, if I wanted to sell it, it'd have a good resale value. Or if I wanted to rent it out, it'd be able to attract renters. Another thing is, it's school districts. And so the areas I purchased in were just kind of like a single guy or single gal areas. And so I wasn't concerned about the school districts, but school districts is another important thing as well. And then you want to make sure you're factoring in like vacancy into your master plan for world domination through house hacking, right? Because the property won't always be occupied, right? You got to expect some sort of vacancy. Your lender assumes 25% vacancy, FYI. Once again, you want to make sure you're factoring in repairs as well. And so just going to do a quick scenario. This is not actual math or I'm going to do a scenario to make the numbers super easy, right? Let's say you're renting out a place for $1,500 and your mortgage is $1,000, right? And so some folks may look at that and be like, hey, there's $500 in profit. It's like, no, there's not $500 in profit, right? You got to make sure you're factoring in like maintenance, like your monthly maintenance, whether it be like, a gardener, whether it be like just normal maintenance on your property, right? And stuff that may break here and there, right? And so you may think, okay, you may spend like $200 a month on maintenance and upkeep of the property. And so now we're at like $1,000 plus $200. And so now that $1,500, we're subtracting the $1,500, right? And so now we're at like $300 profit. And so some folks may think, okay, that's $300 profit on this property. Still no, because you got to make sure you're also factoring in long-term maintenance as well. And so we're talking long-term maintenance. We're talking about like the roof that may break down, 10, 15 years from now. So we want to make sure we're factoring that stuff as well into the make sure you're factoring that stuff as well into the maintenance as well. So you got to factor in those long-term maintenance items as well, also known as like capital expenditures. One, also too, you're going to make sure you're factoring like who you're renting to. So you want to make sure you're screening tenants as well. So I get into screening tenants in the more in-depth course as well. That stuff link will be in the bio if you want to check out that as well. And you want to make sure you got insurance and all that stuff, because you're liable for other people, right? So let's talk about the different loan programs available to you. So once again, conventional loan, it's ideal for like a single family home or condo, right? And so it's because your down payment is either going to be 3 or 5%, depending on your credit score. But the big thing with a conventional loan is that the mortgage insurance drops off at an 80% loan to value ratio. Your reserves are typically going to be like 0. Reserves being the mortgage payment. So a reserve is like a mortgage payment, right? So your principal, interest, tax, and insurance payment. Let's say that that all adds up to $1,000. If by per the guidelines you need like 3 months of reserves, you need basically like $3,000 in your bank account after you've actually purchased the home and put everything down. So it doesn't have to go towards purchasing the home, but you have to have that set aside at closing. And then after closing, whatever happens to your bank account happens to your bank account. Your lender's not monitoring your bank account. Sorry, excuse me. Also, your loan limit. Sorry about that. Also, your loan limits are higher than an FHA. Your credit score is 620, and your debt to income ratio can go up to 50%. We're talking about FHA properties. It's ideal for a 2 to 4 unit property because your down payment is 3.5%, whether it's 2, 3, or 4 units. Jumping back to conventional, if you're looking at like a multi-unit property, like you're down, even if you're living in the property, your down payment can be as high as 25%, right? So at that point, you might as well just like buy it as a rental property at that point. I mean, your interest rate is less for a primary residence than an investment property. But at that point, honestly, you might as well just consider it as an investment property and then just collect rent on the other unit instead of you staying in it, is my opinion. So it doesn't really make any sense to use a conventional loan on a multi-unit property due to the super high down payment. But once again, with the FHA loan, mortgage insurance premium stays on there forever. And also you pay upfront mortgage insurance with a FHA loan. A lot of folks don't realize that. It's typically like one, or right now it's 1.75% of the loan amount gets actually tacked in on the loan. So if you ever look at like your loan estimate for an FHA loan, even though you're putting down 3.5%, your loan to value ratio is like 98 something percent, not 96.5%, right? Typically you'll need about 3+ months of reserves. The loan limits are lower. Just you got to look up FHA loan limits in your local county to figure out what those are. The inspections are stricter for FHA loans. Once there's stuff that has to be fixed with an FHA loan that doesn't have to be fixed with a conventional loan, and it's like safety issues, or what the FHA considers like safety issues have to be fixed, which is why sometimes sellers don't want to deal with FHA loans, but that's another course, another lesson. There's a 580 credit score is the minimum credit requirement, and it's more forgiving credit wise as well. Your debt to income ratio is lesser at 43%. You can add the rent toward your income, but it also must pass the FHA self-sufficiency test, which most folks have no idea what it is. And so this is super important. Okay, so let's talk about the FHA self-sufficiency test, right? So this applies to only the 3 and 4 unit properties with an FHA loan. So essentially, your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and HOA dues, your mortgage payment cannot be more than 75% of the rent. So I got 2 scenarios here, but I'm going to give you just a very basic scenario. So in this situation, if you have a 4 unit property and all units rent for $1,000, so you're going to be collecting $4,000 rent, even though you're staying in one, you're collecting $4,000 rent on the property, right? So your mortgage could be no more than $3,000, which is 75% of the $4,000. And why is that? Because you're staying in one of the units, right? So the FHA self-sufficiency test means exactly what it sounds like. It means that the property has to sustain itself. You know, whether you lose your job, a tenant loses their job, or you have vacancy or something like that, the property has to maintain itself. And so I have 2 scenarios right here. Example 1, example 2. Which one do you think works out? And so the left one does not pass the test. The right one does pass the test as far as the rents being 75% of the property, I guess. I don't know. But the scenario I gave you verbally is makes the most sense. That was just something I did a while back. And so once again, if you're you can use a VA loan, you got to be a veteran. So technically there's no minimum credit score for a VA loan, but most lenders are going to make you have like at least a 620. Your reserves have to be like 6+ months. And also you need to make sure your realtor understands VA loans. A lot of realtors are ignorant when it comes to VA loans. They're just like, we're scared of the VA. And we're going to steer you away from using the VA loan, like one of my realtors try to do. Because honestly, they get the same commission no matter what loan type they use. And so they're just trying to make it easiest for themselves, right? And there's also no mortgage insurance with a VA loan, whether you put down 0% or 20%. Okay, cool. So I do have a little thing in here about tenants as well. I guess we're going to go over tenants at a high level perspective, right? And so once again, just if your realtor's helping you buy the place, have your realtor help you working with the tenant screening process as well. Because they may get a little bit of change from that as well. But your realtor, if you bought a home with your realtor, typically they'll help you find a tenant for free. That's part of their sales pitch to even be working with you in the first place, right? You need to have a screening process in place. Once again, you just don't want to be like, hey, this looks like a nice young lady or whatever, nice young man, right? Because as Chris Rock famously said, when you're meeting somebody the first time, you're meeting their representative, right? You're not meeting them. Nobody's going to be like, hey, I'm loud, I'm ignorant, I'm not going to pay on time, I got bad credit, I got or I got evicted in my last property. Nobody's volunteering that information, right? So you have to actually screen them. You want to make sure you're interviewing the tenants, verifying their income with the previous landlord, or verify the income and talking to the previous landlord. Once again, don't just take somebody's word that they do X, Y, or Z. And if they're paying in cash, there's probably like a sign that something's up, or unless they're like in a legit cash business, I guess. But once again, you also feel free to check them out on social media. I mean, once again, this is your biggest asset most likely, and so don't feel bad that you're prying into somebody's personal background. A lot of the screening are these sites Avail, Cozy Code, Rent Spree. And so I use Avail personally for my personal experience. So in the course, I think we get into actually what Avail does there. And so that's kind of a high level view of house hacking. Once again, I would say join First Time Homebuyer School to join the conversations. You get to pick topics, etc. You can check out my podcast as well for information on the go when it comes to a lot of topics as well. And so, boom, now that you've house hacked, you're living the good life. Like, what do you want to do now? So, one, I would say, go backwards. I'll say one, put your like security deposit like in a high yield savings account or something. Like the security deposit is not your money. It's not free money. Like if the tenant leaves the place in pristine condition, or honestly, the tenant, if you had a tenant for like 4 or 5 years, there's going to be normal wear and tear on the property. You can't like keep the security deposit due to that. So we want to make sure you're not spending that security deposit, because if you have to give it back to the tenant, you owe it to the tenant. Or if you have to use it to actually fix something in the property, you needed to fix something in the property. That's not just like free money, right? And also, I would say your house hacking and you reduce your living expense. Invest, right? That's the whole point of house hacking, is to reduce your living expense so that you can actually retire quicker and live a better lifestyle. Or you can live a better lifestyle, I guess, in real time, and do whatever you do. Throw the money by the Lambos. It's your life. I'm just giving you some tools to help enhance it, right? And so, I think investing is a cool thing. My man Einstein said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it, right? So for more stuff on investing, you can go to YouTube University. You can go to Google University. I'm not going to recommend anybody to invest with, because I'm not licensed to do that, right? And so that is the end of the program. So if you guys got any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. And so if you have a question coming, just like drop like an X, so I know that the question is coming, and then you can type it in there. So if you appreciate what I had to say, feel free to drop a thumbs up on the video. If you didn't, let me know privately, right? Or you can drop a comment too, saying, hey, this presentation sucked, right? Okay, so HOA is only for condos. Actually, no, HOA is for a lot of different scenarios. So like I'm currently in a single family property right now, right? And so my HOA has sorry, I'm trying to stop screen share. And so I have an HOA in the single family property that I live in right now. And so a lot of like master plan communities, they'll have HOAs. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. And so it's not necessarily restricted to just condos. What are the differences between traditional FHA and the FHA 203K program? So at a super high level, the difference between an FHA loan and a 203K loan is that with a 203K loan, you can roll the rehab costs into the loan. And so look back in this channel, or just search on my channel, FHA 203K loans. I think I've done like 2 presentations on what the FHA 203K loan is. So you can kind of go there to see more. But the big difference is with one, you can roll the renovation costs into the property. With the other, it's just an FHA loan. That's the big differences between the two. And so how often can you use the FHA and FHA 203K loans? In theory, you can use it an infinite amount of times, but you can only use it for your primary residence, is how that is. So there's different restrictions on having more than one FHA loan at a time. And so I have another class on the different situations where we can have multiple FHA loans at a time. But really your goal should be to actually refinance out of the FHA loan to drop the mortgage insurance anyways. So, but yeah, and you can have as many as you want at a time. How do you see the market in Dallas for investing since you live there? So I'm not a realtor, so I'm not monitoring the market like a realtor would. So this is just going to be my personal take. And so my personal take on the Dallas market since I live here. So Dallas, like a lot of markets right now, and the home prices they're declining. It's a decline because home prices like in Dallas and a lot of areas in Texas just went up like so quickly, right? And so home prices will naturally go down. Like they're not going to go up at like a 45-degree angle all the time. I mean, I think Dallas is a great market to invest in, because even though there are a lot of folks that people are like, oh, don't California my Texas, right? And so Dallas and a lot of markets in Texas are still a lot cheaper than many markets where folks are moving from, whether it's New York or LA and stuff like that. So I think it's a good market to move to. It's kind of um, a a cold market. When I say a cold market, there's really nothing special about the city of Dallas. It's like it's just that, yeah, there's really nothing special about Dallas. Like if you think about Dallas, it's like you think about like other places like, you know, New York. New York has the atmosphere, the buildings, the city. California, you know, they have the beach and stuff like that. Dallas is just a city that folks in the middle of nowhere. I think folks struck some oil and they just started building houses here. So it's kind of like a very basic city, to be honest with you. I mean, as far as investing, but I mean, I think it's cheaper than a lot of other markets. So that was kind of me rambling, because I'm not a realtor and I don't have like a thorough take on the market. And the last property I bought was in Dallas was in 2016 and 15. So I'm not really super tapped into the what's going on in like the local market. But hopefully that super long drawn out rambling question was of some benefit to you. Um, I may come up with a better answer later and be like, that was my answer. So if you guys got any questions, feel free to drop an X in the comments so I know that your question's coming. If not, I will tap out and I'll see you guys next Tuesday. So if you got a question, drop an X and let me know. If not, see you guys later. Feel free to give the video a thumbs up on the way out if you got some value out of it. But I'll start my 10-second countdown. Oh, so let me see what we had on Instagram. It's so hard to see questions on Instagram, but 10, 9. Okay, so we got a question. Is the BOA program a good opportunity for first-time homebuyers? I personally think so. I did another live presentation on the BOA program. To me, like there's really no downsides to the program. It's like, hey, it's 0% down. It comes with like it comes with a grant that's like 3% of the purchase price. So they're helping you put down 3% as well. And so you have instant equity. It's like a conventional loan, except for you put nothing down with the program. So BOA has worked. You know, they're one of the main underwriters for like the NACA program, and so they have experience with these 0% down programs as well. So if I was a first-time homebuyer, I'd definitely explore BOA's program. So I wouldn't be scared to use it. So like I said, I did on this very channel. If you look under the playlist first-time homebuyer school, there's like I did 2 videos on it. I did one on the actual program itself, going into the guidelines, and also I did another program going into some of the conspiracy theories that a lot of the tinfoil hat people have about the program. But yeah, I think it's a good program. I personally would explore it if I was looking to purchase my first property. So cool. I'll start the countdown again. If you guys got any questions, let me know. If you got a question, like drop like an X, I know it's coming. If not, I'll start my 10-second countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay, so question. Is it a good time to refinance during these times or to wait for it to pass? So to me, it's a horrible time to refinance because rates have not been this high in, I don't even know how the last time rates have been the 6 and 7% threshold. So whenever you refinance, the whole point typically is to lower your monthly payment. And so the best way to lower your monthly payment typically is to lower your rate or extend the term. And so if low rate, like if you got like a 4, a 3, a 2, a 5, like refinancing into like a 6%, 7% interest rate probably doesn't make any sense unless you have an FHA loan, and dropping the mortgage insurance will actually make your payment less, even though your interest rate may be going up. So that's my thoughts on that. So I'll start my 10-second countdown one more time. If you got a question, drop an X. I'll know that a question is coming. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for joining. Join First Time Homebuyer School. Check out my podcast. More information on the go. This is going to be like, there's like a 10-second delay. So you'll probably see me sitting here for 10 seconds after my countdown has kicked off. But appreciate you all joining me. And that is it. Thank you. Now I always got to figure out how to log out of this thing. All right. End video. Oh, no. Yeah. There.